It is wrestling, and it's one of those special times where, I guess we're just lucky because Tony Khan is going to come in and he's going to talk all things AEW, I guess all things Ring of Honor, really just all things professional wrestling. It is All Elite Wrestling President Tony Khan. Tony, you're in Boston. What's up, man?
Hey, man. We missed you last night. Hopefully, you're feeling better.
No, I'm not feeling well at all. But I did. I tell you what, I was able to lay on my couch and watch Dynamite. I thought it was fantastic. I thought the second hour of that, especially that main event, was some of the best pro wrestling I've seen on TV in a very, very long time. I got a lot of things to ask you about, but I want to start there. FTR is suddenly the hottest act, I think, in all of professional wrestling. We're 5 days removed from them putting on a pure classic at the Ring of Honor Supercard. And then 5 days after that, they go to Dynamite. They defend the Ring of Honor belts. They defend the AAA belts against the Young Bucks in a rematch that was 18 months in the making. And they tear the house down again. How did these guys get so hot so fast?
Well, I think it's because they're two of the best pro wrestlers on the planet. And they had some great matches here just in the past year. I mean, they've had some classics. I think their match at Grand Slam with Sting and Darby was excellent. And it had been building up to them, I think, having a rematch with the Young Bucks. 18 months ago, they wrestled the Young Bucks at Full Gear 2020. And so much had changed in a year and a half in the world of wrestling. I think it was unimaginable that the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championship would be defended along with the AAA Tag Team Championship on Dynamite. And that really FTR would have changed their tune a bit. They've really started to rely on their wrestling ability and not on cheating and Tully Blanchard, whereas the Young Bucks have gone 180 degrees the other way. The Young Bucks are the biggest rule-breaking team in all of pro wrestling. And I think FTR, it had been coming. I mean, in addition to that great match I mentioned that you were at, I believe at Grand Slam with Sting and Darby, they had an amazing match on TV recently with CM Punk and Jon Moxley. Mm-hmm. And I think they reached a point where they said, we don't need Tully. We don't need the cheating. We're just great wrestlers. And they've gone on and put on clinic after clinic. I think Dax had that singles match against CM Punk that really opened a lot of eyes. But then as a team, they've been on fire just in the past several days. They had that match against the Gun Club on Dynamite, picked up a big win going into Ring of Honor Supercard, had one of the match of the year contenders, I think, versus the Briscoes, and then followed it up with another match of the year contender less than a week later, last night on Dynamite against the Young Bucks. And I think FTR right now are firing on all cylinders, two of the best wrestlers on the planet. And it's really exciting, I think, for the fans to be able to embrace these guys finally and not have to cheer against them.
Now, 3 weeks ago on Rasslin, I was like, hey, you know what Tony Khan should do? He should put FTR in a bigger spot, and he should make FTR a focus of their shows. Did you see that? Is that what happened?
No, it was already kind of the focus and the plan. When I had purchased Ring of Honor, I think it was actually a few weeks before that episode of Rasslin, made the agreement with the Ring of Honor to purchase the company. I really felt like now was the time to go throw all my chips in on FTR versus the Briscoes. And what a success the event was. I don't have all the cable and satellite numbers yet, but it looks like it was at least one of Ring of Honor's biggest events in the 20-year history of the company, which is saying a lot because recently they hadn't been doing those kind of numbers. And I think we really drove a lot of business. And a huge part of it was the Briscoes versus FTR.
You say it was one of the biggest events, and that's fine. I think coming with your investment and with AEW and you and the backing and all that, that's going to happen. But I think it was also incredibly well received, which is even better, right? Like Ring of Honor fans watched what happened, watched what unfolded, and they are pleased with the product and they are pleased with the direction. And that means Samoa Joe coming out at the end. Take me through this process, signing Samoa Joe. How easy or difficult was that process?
It was good. He's a great person. He's very reasonable, and he wanted to come, and I wanted him to come. So in that sense, it was pretty easy. We got everything figured out, and I was really excited to bring Samoa Joe both to Ring of Honor and AEW. And I felt like that Ring of Honor pay-per-view as a transition from an era of 20 great years of Ring of Honor, different ownerships, different bookers, different entities. But frankly, the one thing that was consistent was 20 years of great professional wrestling and great professional wrestlers at Ring of Honor that kept the company strong. And a lot of those great wrestlers have come to AEW. And some of the people who'd even recently been wrestling for Ring of Honor as recently as last year have come to AEW. And I thought something great would be to pick up some recent Ring of Honor stories, to take everything they'd been doing and really keep the company going and pick up from where they were and not try to start cold, because they had some exciting things happening in Ring of Honor. And that's where we ended up with great matches. FTR versus Briscoes, we had helped them set up a Final Battle. I had no idea I was going to be signing a deal to buy Ring of Honor. I, at the time, was trying to work with a company I'd never really done anything with before. I had worked with so many companies, over the past several years, but I'd never done anything with Ring of Honor. I honestly had probably done more with WWE because Jericho did that thing with Steve Austin. So I don't remember doing anything with Ring of Honor. So we sent FTR early, but then they also had a thing with Bandito, who's a great wrestler and was their champion at the time, had gotten COVID and had to miss their Final Battle pay-per-view. So I sent Jay Lethal as a replacement. He has so much history with Jonathan Gresham, and I thought it would be a great match. And they had a great match. They have a history. They longtime teammates. They were long-standing world tag team champions in Ring of Honor. They built a foundation together. And Jonathan Gresham saw Jay Lethal, I think, as a mentor. Lee Moriarty also saw Jay Lethal as a mentor. And I think we saw Jay Lethal turn on these proteges, bring in his best friend in the world, Sanjay Dutt, which is a real thing. I mean, those two are like thick as thieves best friends, which is why I thought this would work so well together with Jay and Sanjay, and create a hostile situation, create some jeopardy. And that was the perfect time, I thought, to bring back Samoa Joe, who, fittingly enough, was really the person who legitimized Jay Lethal as a big star in pro wrestling, and bring it all full circle. And that, to me, is great pay-per-view. I really loved, it was 4.5 years. It wasn't like a couple months after the prior show. Like when they did ECW One Night Stand, they picked up over 4 years later after their final pay-per-view. And I felt like I wanted to strike while the iron was hot with Ring of Honor, pick up, not do like cold tribute matches. But on the other hand, One Night Stand is one of the greatest pay-per-views because they captured the spirit of the ECW. And there was a lot of exciting stuff on the show. I think it's apples and oranges. They're totally different shows. But one thing they did do, are apples and oranges are both fruits. So they both taste good. So I maybe apples and oranges, but I thought, hey, we can do a show that captures the spirit of Ring of Honor. I don't want to do an AEW show. That was what was great about One Night Stand. It was not a WWE show. And Ring of Honor Supercard was a Ring of Honor show with Ian and Caprice announcing, with Bobby on announcing, the ring announcing, whereas those guys were commentating. And, bringing in some stars from AEW. Really, FTR were the only outside stars that hadn't been primarily in Ring of Honor, other than, I guess, Swerve. But ironically, Ring of Honor had booked Swerve before I did. So they had already, Swerve was already committed to that before he had come to AEW. So
what does it look like now? What does it look like going forward? Like you have AEW, but you also have Ring of Honor. So are you taking this like week by week, or do you know the plans? Do you know exactly what it's going to look like over the next 6 months, a year, or 2 years?
A lot of it depends on, what was great, first of all, the fans supporting the show. Mm-hmm. Not only do we sell a lot of tickets in the final couple weeks of the run up, crowd. Yeah, it was a hot crowd, and we had a couple thousand fans there, and that was a lot better because when I signed the purchase agreement a few weeks prior, they only had a couple hundred tickets sold. So we really hustled and moved a lot of tickets in the final weeks. And then even more so, really, on a worldwide basis, I don't have the cable and satellite numbers yet, but I know on Fight TV alone, this show did over 15,000 buys. And when I get the cable and satellite and add all that together, it projects for a really good total. And there's clearly more interest than anybody out there had projected, which is why I'm glad I took the leap of faith and made this investment in Ring of Honor, bought the company. And now going forward, I think what we can lean on as fans, thankfully, due to the success of AEW.
So we are sitting here, we're talking, it's Thursday afternoon, which means we are in between Dynamite, which happened last night, and then Rampage, which will broadcast tomorrow night.
We're in that zone where I'm like nervous, like waiting for ratings for the night before. This is a little different one, I'll tell you this, and I have no idea what it's going to be. I did the show a little bit differently than I've been doing when I've been booking a little bit more for ratings,
Sure.
And I'll explain how. You know how the first hours have been super, super hot?
Right.
Since I think I've been on a roll, especially in the first hours. If you look on like Cage Match, I think this is the most Dynamites that are over a 7 out of 10 in a row in the history of the show. And we've done like 131 episodes now. And it's been like all good episodes for a long time. I think every episode's been at least a 7 out of 10 for, from, that's not for me, that's from the fans voting around the world. And I really appreciate that. And last night, I wanted to put a lot of time out there available so there would be a possibility of a great classic main event and no rushing, and that they would be able to do the great match I knew they could have, FTR versus the Young Bucks. And so I've been stacking up the first hours, loading them up and putting lots of stuff in the first hour. And the way I'd been booking the shows, honestly, like it's been working. And the first hours have done really, really well, and it's held an audience through the night, but I've loaded up so much stuff in the first hour. And it was a little bit different this week, and I'll explain. And actually we could talk about, I know you alluded to Rampage, which is a big week for Rampage this week. And there's also an element of that.
Sure.
Sometimes when you're a director, a producer, you're making films, you make commercials, you book commercially, right? You try to book your films so that they're going to bring in big box office. And that's the most important thing to the studio. But every once in a while, you make an art house picture. You say like, okay, this one time, we've been making great box office. We've been doing, great ratings, been in the top number 1 or in the top 3 a lot recently. Last couple of weeks, we were number 3, only behind the NBA on ESPN doubleheader. So they were 1 and 2, we were 3 out of hundreds of shows on hundreds of channels, thousands of shows on hundreds of channels. Number 3 out of those thousands of shows. And the only thing that beat us, NBA on ESPN, is a multi-billion-dollar package. So it bodes well for the company. And we've been neck and neck with them through the year, and they're really getting into their playoff season. So I feel really good about the numbers. This week, I wasn't thinking about them. I'm not going to sweat the number, whatever it turns out to be this week, because I was trying to do a prestige show this week, especially maybe coming off Ring of Honor. I felt like it was maybe it was the prestige in me. And opening with Adam Cole versus Christian Cage, classic wrestling match. Now that is a match that I do think could bring in a lot of fans. We'll see how the first quarter did, but I think that's a really good first quarter match. But the way I've been booking the shows, I might have put FTR Young Bucks earlier in the show because it's a big match. And I've been loading up the first hour into the 9 o'clock hour and really trying to have the first hour flow. And even at the start of the second hour too, really like the first hour and a half I've been loading and then putting in as strong stuff as I could on the back end. But, and really this week I tried to just not worry about that and just do great matches for the fans. And Rampage, I think, is also the most loaded episode of Rampage because I wasn't worried about stacking it up. Danielson and Moxley have been wrestling on Dynamite a lot. Yeah. And I had been thinking, I need to get back to my ruthless roots on Fridays. On Fridays, I had been putting lots of big matches on. And when Rampage started, I was stacking up the shows. And recently I've been putting on really good, I think the shows have been great, Rampage. But it's a lot of it had been about developing new stars, building stars. And we've been doing that. And we've had great main events. And we've established a lot of new wrestlers in AEW in recent weeks and months in Rampage. Now that we've established those wrestlers, now I think they're ready to be on Dynamite more. And this week, let's go. Let's go. Mox versus Yuta, I think, is going to be one of the best matches on TV, singles matches in particular, in a long time. We've had some great tags, FTR versus Young Bucks. And there's been some great singles matches on Dynamite this year and on Rampage. But this Friday on Rampage, tomorrow night, is the most stacked box office lineup, but also great matches, the best of both worlds. Like when you make a great movie that's going to be a smash hit. So Jon Moxley versus Wheeler Yuta, we were talking about the Ring of Honor pay-per-view. Wheeler Yuta is a wrestler that's ready to break through.
Right.
And we've seen him come in, have a great match last week with Danielson, follow up winning the Ring of Honor pure title from Josh Woods. So I think Wheeler Yuta is another guy here who's having a big week, 2-week period, similar to FTR. His star is on the rise. FTR, a lot more established, worldwide stars, whereas Wheeler Yuta is a younger star. And, again, we're talking about apples and oranges here, but those are both good things. I'm really excited for Jon Moxley versus Wheeler Yuta. Just talked about Wheeler Yuta, but Jon Moxley is one of our biggest stars, and I just really like what Jon Moxley's been doing since he came back to AEW.
He looks like great. He's having a blast out there now. He looks like he's having the time of his life, and he's doing the Blackpool Combat Club. He's got Regal beside him. He's got Danielson beside him. Those three all look like they're having an absolute blast doing what they're doing with AEW. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're having a great time. It's great having them all together. I think, and this Friday, tomorrow night on Rampage, I think this week's show, you not only get to see Moxley versus Wheeler Yuta, but what's great about it is we're going to open up hot with Bryan Danielson versus Trent Beretta. And that's another match. I think we've seen Bryan Danielson and William Regal really run down the best friends. And the guy in the best friends who more so than anybody takes no shit is Trent. And he's not going to take any shit from Bryan Danielson or anybody. And I really, really like Trent as a wrestler, and I want to get him going. It's great. He's had, I think, 3 or 4 big injuries that have sidelined him since AEW started. And every time he was really on a roll, I felt like it came at a bad time. And he's a great tag team wrestler, but also an awesome singles wrestler, as we've seen. He's had great matches with Phoenix, Jon Moxley himself, and also recently he picked up a huge win over Nick Jackson on Rampage, which was another great match on Rampage. This week, big box office stars, and we've seen Mox and Bryan a lot on Dynamite, but I thought it would be really good. I'm going to load up Rampage and make Friday nights must-see Friday nights again, and we're going to get back to the roots of Rampage, where it started with the biggest stars, and you can't miss it. And I am going to promise I will continue making Rampage must-watch on Fridays.
Well, that leads right into my next question, because you've already announced that next week's title match between Hangman Page and Adam Cole will be on Rampage. It won't be on
and it's a special start time. This week we're in our normal 10 o'clock slot, which is probably good because I have a feeling that Moxley versus Yuta might not be for the faint of heart.
Okay. All right.
So I think it's good we're in the late night slot this week. And this is like a Bill Watts warning on that one.
All right.
I'm giving you that this is, people aren't going to compare me to Bill Watts very often, but I'm going to give you the speech right now. We're going to applaud. I'm just kidding. It's going to be a insane ass kicking match, Moxley versus Yuta in the main event. And I think now's the time where Yuta has a chance to prove he's a legitimate main event guy. And not only that, but speaking of main event guys, on the show recently, we've seen Swerve Strickland turn into a main event wrestler, and we're going to get him going. He's also wrestling on this show, and he's got a very interesting situation he's involved in. Swerve Strickland with Ricky Starks, along with Keith Lee and Powerhouse Hobbs. And last night on Dynamite, that was insane. When
so you're just letting people you letting people throw each other through walls now? Is that what you're doing?
I mean, I'm not encouraging it, but I'm also not, look, I'm not saying I don't condone it.
Right.
Either.
Right.
Maybe I do condone it.
If it happens, it happens. Yeah. Anybody ever fix that TV from last night, or is it still broken?
It's going to be fixed on Rampage.
Okay, good.
We're going to fix it for Rampage, I promise.
MJF doing his backstage interview and said, well, somebody fixed the TV. I was like, oh, that's funny. Couple of questions here as we dive further into AEW. How does Wardlow keep getting in the building, Tony?
Somebody out there must like him.
I mean, every week. And listen, I don't know what you're paying for security, okay? But you either got go way up or at least renegotiate because he's decimating security every week.
Does decimate the security guys. Somebody higher up in the company must have got him a key.
It's weird because it's a different building every week, so you don't think the key would be the same. But maybe somebody, maybe with somebody with a lot of money to make on him is helping him get in there. I don't know.
It's not that expensive to get a key in each city. It costs like $5. Man.
That's true. Keys
True
are
Value. You go to True Value, Ace Hardware.
I got to be honest. Keys should be more expensive, Tony.
Well, that's why they say Ace is the place.
I think I don't know if they're a sponsor with you yet, but maybe they will.
No, they aren't. But maybe this will help.
So I just need your help. I rarely ask for your help. I never ask for your help. I'm going to ask for your help right now. I've offered him $62 on Twitter, and then I offered him $81 American monies to come on the show. I need you to make Danhausen come on Rasslin.
He only accepts bearer bonds, so that could be tricky.
I can convert my American dollars to bearer bonds. However, that I don't know how to do that, but I can figure it out.
Okay, or you can pay him in blimp fuel.
What if I got him a blimp?
Well, I'm already on that.
You're on that. Okay, sorry.
I have the blimp technology.
I can't go 50-50 with you on the blimp. I'm sorry.
Please. I would love it. I'll put your name on it. I'll put Rasslin with BFW on it.
Yes, thank you very much.
How did you get the BFW Twitter? Did you always have that?
No, I just got it. I had
Now, is that more? I bet that was more than $81.
I got blimp money too, Tony. Well, not really as much, but
if you got money for BFW, you don't have bearer bonds for Danhausen?
I told him $81. I think that's fair. I think that's very fair. Whatever. I'm going to up the offer.
Funny. I expected I was going to have this kind of chemistry with RJ City, but you're like, we really have.
Don't get me started, Tony. Don't get me started.
I think it's because you and I have done a lot more. That was my first one with him was a rough start, but we'll get it. We'll get the chemistry down.
Just saying, I could have done that for you. It would have been no problem. All right, here we go.
Wait, okay. To be fair, he did have you never came to me with the idea of chauffeuring the people around on the road to Revolution.
Tony, I texted you.
You were going to drive the people in the car, and you did want to. Now you did. I do like you coming down and doing interviews. I would love to have you come down and do interviews, and I like you coming down and doing interviews. But I do think that spot. I also like this spot. I like doing this here with you. It's nice. I would like to do more in person, but you're sick. So what are we going to do?
Well, you guys are going to be on Long Island in less than a month, and I'm going to be back out there with you guys. I'll be embedded with you guys that week.
I love it. And also I would just ask, please take a COVID test or something before you come.
I'm not going to have it for a month, Tony.
Well, who knows if you have it now? Have you been tested?
I have taken 4 COVID tests. It is negative every time. So I guess I have the flu or something.
Well, I'm glad. Well, either way, I'm sorry you're sick, man. That's what going to WrestleMania does to people.
You know what? That's fair. It's fair, but if I had to do over again, I'm not sure.
Maybe if you'd made it over to Ring of Honor Supercard, this wouldn't be happening.
I tried. I drove out there and I was going in and I started getting sick out there and I had, you know what?
Again, it's this damn WrestleMania. So it's good.
You know what? Real talk. This is not a joke. I've said this to you before. It's such a magical, amazing time to be a wrestling fan. It really is, because you guys, for the first time in decades, have given real options and alternatives. And this week, I think, has been a real, I don't know about game changer, but it's been a real eye opener to me, because I did go to Mania and I did enjoy it. I loved it. I thought it was a fantastic show. And then Wednesday, I'm going to Dynamite thinking, now how's Tony going to respond to this? And all you did was put one of the best matches on free TV that we've seen in the last 2 or 3 years. And now I'm hearing that it's possible that it could happen at Rampage. So, I think you guys have responded by saying, you know what, bell to bell, we're the best company in America. Is that a fair thing to say?
Yeah, I think it is a fair thing to say. This is one of our best weeks of wrestling we've done. And CM Punk's not even wrestling this week. So to say that right now we have an amazing roster, I think is putting it mildly. We have so many great wrestlers here, and the roster is only getting better. Just in recent weeks, we've added Samoa Joe, Toni Storm, Jeff Hardy, Swerve Strickland. And, a month before that, Keith Lee came in. So the company's getting better and stronger. I'm really excited about all the things happening. I think the championship scene's getting really hot. The Owen Hart Cup tournament, very exciting. We've got 3 in the women's field already now. We know Jamie Hayter, Toni Storm, and Hikaru Shida all in the field. And we're going to add another to the field tomorrow night. It'll be Red Velvet versus Willow Nightingale for the 4th spot in the field in the Owen Hart Cup tournament. I think it's going to be a great tournament, the women's cup, and also the men's cup. Only one so far in the qualifying, but it's a big one, Samoa Joe.
Question, you mentioned Punk, and I know Hangman Adam Page has had the belt for since November, I believe.
Yep.
You mentioned Punk, and you've got Bryan Danielson. How hard has it been? You signed those guys last year. They were your huge signings around August, September. How hard has it been to not really have them around the title picture, to kind of stage them off? Because I know CM Punk is going around now and he's doing this and he's saying it's about time to go for that title.
Well, CM Punk was built to it, right? CM Punk came in and said he wanted to wrestle the young guys and build himself up and get ready to possibly be a title contender. And he went in and then he wrestled some of the young guys. He also ended up wrestling a lot of great veterans who I think are underrated, frankly. He had great matches with some young wrestlers like Darby Allin, Will Hobbs, Daniel Garcia, who are all really important stars for AEW. When you talk about Garcia, Hobbs, and Darby, they're all established, but they're also a big part of our future, all 3 of them. And CM Punk wrestling them was a big moment in the careers of Darby, Hobbs, and Garcia. Then you have top, established veterans that he came in and wrestled. I think, you could say underrated about any of them when you talk about Eddie Kingston, Bobby Fish, and Matt Sydal. These are great matches he had and were important for the company. Then really moved into what was one of our biggest box office stories we've ever done, maybe the biggest, CM Punk versus MJF. And they had great matches, great television, and produced a ton of great ratings and great results for the company. And so CM Punk has really worked his way up the rankings. And if he wants to go after the championship, as the matchmaker, I think he's in a position where he's earned that, right? And right now, we've got a great champion with Hangman Page, but we also have a number 1 contender who he didn't get into the title scene immediately, but he's in the title scene right now. And he came in around the same time, on the same night as Bryan Danielson, and just a couple weeks after CM Punk. And the night CM Punk debuted, he walked in, and that's Adam Cole. And Adam Cole's on fire right now. Mm-hmm. We talked a little bit about that, I think, earlier this match, but last night, bless you.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right.
This is good. This is actually nice though, because you're not leaving the house, man. So we might as well just talk wrestling. This is cool. So
Adam Cole's on fire right now.
I'm gonna pick that up there. Okay. So Adam Cole's on fire right now. He's been having awesome matches, and in recent weeks, he's picked up some huge wins. We saw he had that great win against Jay Lethal. He took a big shortcut beating Jay Lethal with that low blow. I also think that was a light bulb moment for Jay Lethal. I'll go back to Adam Cole in a second, but I think Adam Cole and Jay Lethal, they had a lot of great history in Ring of Honor too. Speaking of Ring of Honor history and how this all led to Jay Lethal and his evolution in recent weeks. He said on Rampage right after that Adam Cole match, he's going back to the drawing board. He sees that he needed to change something he was doing. He went out and wrestled Jon Moxley, basically did a lot of the same stuff, maybe a little more intense. At the end, you could see he was very frustrated. And it was only with great trepidation and frustration that he shook Jon Moxley's hand at the end of the match. I think that Adam Cole match really had a big effect on Jay Lethal. We saw he use the low blow then to beat Lee Moriarty and take the shortcuts. Well, Adam Cole then, that was a huge win for him. Great match versus Jay Lethal, a guy he has a lot of history with. That's why Jay Lethal has that bald head. And then Adam Cole, great win over Christian Cage, one of the legends in pro wrestling last night. And an awesome match. I think, we ended with a great match with FTR versus Young Bucks. We also opened with a great match, a great way to start the show with Adam Cole versus Christian Cage. Adam Cole is on fire. And I think next Friday, 8 days from now, we're at a special start time. We're doing Rampage at 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central. instead of the normal 10 o'clock. So instead of starting Rampage late, we're on early. And we're going to do it in a major way. To be honest, this one also not going to be for the faint of heart. So I guess either way, it's going to work. Just like we're going to have a very intense match with Moxley and Yuta. Things are going to go crazy and take it to another level with a Texas death match. Hangman versus Adam Cole. Now, Hangman in his last Texas death match with Lance Archer, that was awesome. Hangman versus Archer, I think, beat everyone's expectations. It was a great, great championship match. And Hangman, I don't think Hangman's ever wrestled on Rampage before. So I thought, what a great way to have him start. Adam Cole's wrestled and won a lot of matches on Rampage. He's won a lot of matches in general. He's earned this shot. His one blemish on his official record is his match with Hangman at Revolution. And it was a classic championship match. And Adam Cole, I think, showed last night against Christian, he's definitely got what it takes. Hangman's been, like you said, since November, since Full Gear, since he won the title from Omega in what was one of the greatest stories also, I think, in one of the most important stories in the history of AEW. Hangman's had so many great matches, 2 great matches with Danielson, and what a great match with Archer. Had a good defense with Dante Martin on television and a classic with Adam Cole at Revolution. And I believe now is going to be a climax. What's going to happen? I think it's a very exciting time, and I'm really pumped for next week's Rampage too. I think the next 2 Fridays, like you said, it's a theme. I'm gonna really try to make sure Rampage is also a show, and there's 2 A shows every week on Wednesday and Friday.
All right, a couple more questions, and I'm gonna let you get out of here because I know you're busy. I know
you're not going anywhere, man. So let's just hang out.
All right, well we can hang out. By the way, I think Illinois is supposed to get a 5-star basketball guy today. So
Sky Clark that's later, right? Sky Clark's announcing.
Sky Clark,
Sky Clark's going to announce now. I don't know that for sure. It would be great if Sky Clark came to Illinois, but I don't know.
I think he's announcing for Illinois.
It's later today, right?
It is later today. I'm just saying. As I'm plugged into sports, so I just know when I got you, when you talk a little champagne sports, we always do it. A couple more questions before I let you get out of here. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about this. You've talked about it elsewhere. You've talked about it. Cody's talked about it. An AEW original makes his debut on WrestleMania, then opens Raw with a promo the other night. You've talked respectfully about Cody. Cody's talked respectfully about you. It seems like there is a lot of healthy respect there. There are no real hard feelings going forward. Is that about the size of this thing? I mean, are we going to find out later that there's more, or is just one of these things that business happened?
Yeah, I think it's just one of those things. We couldn't reach an agreement on going forward, and I think he has found a situation that's good for him, and we're in a great position right now. There's no ill will either way. We're still friends, and I wish him the best, and I think he wished us the best publicly and privately. So it's all good.
So can I tell you, you don't care at all. But
I do care what you think.
When we're talking wrestling, you remember in '96, okay, the biggest thing that happened was when Nash and Hall went over to WCW. Yeah. And it launched the biggest angle in the history of wrestling. But what it really did was it opened up, when they left, WWF then had to push guys named Steve Austin and Mick Foley and plug into those spots. And guess they became like the biggest, like this. Things like this could end up being so great for everybody involved, you know? And I think we get so lost in the competition of them against you or us against them, whatever, that like this could be awesome for everybody in professional wrestling. And I think you have that attitude. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I mean, we've been doing great shows, great pay-per-views. I think any buzz in professional wrestling is great for, I think, professional wrestling, as long as it's positive stuff, positive stories. And I think, I hope he keeps doing positive stuff and wish him the best. I know for us, we've been stacking the roster up. Like I mentioned, just in recent weeks, Samoa Joe, Toni Storm, Jeff Hardy, Swerve Strickland have all come in, Keith Lee right before that. So our show's getting deeper and stronger. And that's only a few months after we added the big batch with CM Punk, Adam Cole, Ruby Soho, Bryan Danielson, bunch of stars coming in. And that followed another big wave of stars who had actually gotten released for some reason, with Andrade El Idolo and Malachi Black and some other really good wrestlers who came in.
When you signed Swerve, did he ask you whose house?
No, but I did try to make that a big prominent part of his presentation. He was, it was a very pleasant meeting. He wasn't using catchphrases and stuff. I had a cup of coffee with him. He's a really nice guy.
Shoot, I kind of wish wrestlers did use their catchphrases when they were doing business. Just
some people do, but this was not like an over the top presentation. It was a very friendly get together.
You guys have kind of perfected the art of building to your 4 pay-per-views every year, but in between the builds, you do these special Dynamites and you do these TV specials like Battle of the Belts, which is coming up pretty soon. But when do you have in mind right now when you're really going to flip the switch into building up to your next pay-per-view, which I believe will be at the end of May? And that's nearly 2 months from now, probably 6-8 weeks, something like that.
You want to come to Vegas, man?
Yeah, I do.
Let's go. Well, you're probably gonna have antibodies now, and so I think you're gonna be. I'm
gonna be fine by the end of this interview. I'm gonna be fine. I'm gonna be back on my feet. I'm going to Mississippi tomorrow, and I'm gonna go down there for vacation. I'm gonna chill for a while. It's my birthday next week. I'll be fully healthy. I'll be back. I'll be so back.
We're gonna see a great show in New Orleans. I think it's gonna be great to have you in New Orleans next week on your birthday, and Vegas. It's going to be huge. I do have a time in mind as we start getting into a little bit closer, but I think there's a lot of issues that need to be resolved before we can even think about Double or Nothing. And there's some major stakes in front of us. We have big matches, championship matches. Right. Just in the next week, we know all the world championships are being defended next week. We've got Hangman Page defending the world title against Adam Cole at the special Rampage next week at the special start time early, or early in your day instead of late next Friday, whereas this Friday we're still late, tomorrow we're late. And Hangman Page defending against Adam Cole for the world title. You've got the world tag team champions, Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, a match you're going to be at against Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish, a huge match on Wednesday night Dynamite New Orleans. And on Saturday at the Battle of the Belts, Thunder Rosa is going to defend the title against the number 1 contender, Nyla Rose, in Texas, a state where both of them have won the championship, and should be really exciting Battle of the Belts. So with all the championships being defended just in the next week, I think the championship picture will be clearer, and we'll have a good sense of where we're going as we get closer towards Double or Nothing next month. So we'll get into focus of that, but right now, there's just a lot of great stuff happening on Dynamite and Rampage and the Battle of the Belts.
I want to ask about one wrestler specifically as we wind down here. Jade Cargill debuted, I want to say last February. I think it was
last March, yeah.
Last March.
But you're right. It was like early March, yeah.
It was, but it was right before, it was the Dynamite before Revolution, I believe.
Yeah, it was.
I remember that because I was actually there in the building. But obviously you put her in a big spot originally. You guys had high hopes for her. We're now a year in. She hasn't lost yet, and she has an aura about her. She has a presence, a star power that is special in the world of professional wrestling. Is she ahead of where you thought she would be at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. Jade is a star, and I absolutely think she's far ahead of where anybody expected. I think it's all down to her. We've tried to put good support and coaching around her, and a lot of great people work with her on a regular basis. And we have great coaching here. When you have people on the full-time staff, Sanjay, Serena, QT, Dustin Rhodes, a lot of really good coaching, but also Bryan Danielson has put in a lot of time coaching as well. And he's one of the best minds in professional wrestling, and he sees the potential in Jade too. And I asked him to work with her, and he was eager and excited to do it. So I think Jade, sky's the limit for Jade, and her presentation is tremendous. Her instincts are awesome, and she's got all the physical tools. And Jade doesn't just pop a hardcore wrestling fan. Jade pops a casual audience.
Right.
Like, to somebody who hasn't watched wrestling, you know, you go to the Chicago Bulls game, like I've gone to with Jade before, or go to a Nashville Predators game, like I've been to with Jade before. And the average person who isn't really watching wrestling, but might be open to it, will walk up and say, like, oh my God, you're the champion of wrestling. Like, you look amazing. Oh my God, you're a pro wrestler, huh? And I've walked around with some of the biggest names in pro wrestling, and the person that the average fan walks over to, because they've never seen wrestling before, they're like, oh my God, to Jade, she looks like a star, like you said. And I totally agree with what you said, Brandon. I think she's got so much potential, and right now, like you asked, yeah, I think she's way far ahead of what anybody would have expected for somebody so young in their wrestling career. She's a great athlete, a college athlete, and bodybuilder, and mom, and a great person. And she's been awesome for AEW.
I was going to sit in her baddie section last night, but I got sick.
You could sit in John Silver's saddies section.
Yes, I would be much more inclined to sit in the saddies section anyway. All right, so that's Tony Khan, and AEW is hot. Ring of Honor, the super card. Who knows what's going to happen with that? It looks like the future, or the sky is the limit. I guess I'll just ask you an open-ended question. You can take it wherever you want, but over the next 6 months to a year, people who have grown to love AEW, we got more of the same coming. We got exciting things coming down the pipe. What do we got coming for AEW?
I want to make AEW even better and get the shows even more exciting. I think we just did a great Dynamite with some great matches, and this week's Rampage is going to be really special. I think this is a tell your friends episode of Rampage. You know, when you open with a match like Trent versus Bryan Danielson, and great matches on the show, and you're closing with main event Moxley versus Yuta, to see one of the great established stars in pro wrestling wrestling against somebody who's really trying to break through and become a star. I think it's a really exciting possibility. And man, like I said, it's been a big week for Wheeler Yuta. We'll see if he's up to the task, but I promise it'll be worth watching Rampage, 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central on TNT. We're in that late night spot tomorrow, and next week going to the early spot for the Hangman Cole Texas Death Match. But don't miss this show and stick around for the main event. I promise you will not regret. Again, like I have to reuse a catchphrase I have borrowed, that it would be, if you miss Moxley Yuta, a regret that you'll never forget.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to sneak in one question. I shouldn't do it. I just want to, when you were talking,
I want to hang out. Like, I'm not trying to get out of here.
When you were talking right there, it just made me think of this. You are, before you're anything, a fan of professional wrestling. Is this correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
When you sit down to negotiate or to sign somebody like William Regal, how hard is it to turn off the fan who has known this guy as a performer for 25, maybe 30 years? How hard is it to, like, not geek out and just get your business done or get everything done? Because you're bringing in a guy who's got, hell, he's been all over the wrestling world for 30 years, and he's just great. How do you turn that off?
It was great. I mean, I have a ton of respect for him. It was great conversations. I mean, I enjoy it. You know, yeah. I'll say this, like, it's been really, I started working on this 4 years ago. Actually, you know what? What's today's date?
Today is April 7th. Would
you believe that yesterday, I didn't even think about this. Yesterday was 4 years to the day from when I started working on this. So I started working on this in April 2018. And I had a conversation with my friend who was at the time the president of TNT and TBS. And that's what opened this door. It was April 6th at a party in Beverly Hills at a lovely mansion. And it was a complete coincidence that I was there. You might have been there too. I don't know if you were there. Yep. I was
I might have been at a different party. Sorry.
You might have been there. You're an esteemed dude. So we had a great time, and it was a total coincidence. My friend Bernie Cahill, who is my friend and business partner, he asked me to come hang out, and I didn't have anything going, so it was a last second thing. I knew Kevin socially from hanging out with Bernie. They're really good friends. I didn't go out that night thinking I was going to see Kevin, let alone mention that I thought it would be a good idea to start a wrestling company. So maybe a glass or two of tequila helped start this revolution in pro wrestling. But yesterday was 4 years ago to the day. I didn't even think about that. So this week I've been doing this for 4 years, and I've gotten pretty grizzled. So I think that like it was awesome. I don't ever take it for granted being able to work with and talk to the people I talk to and work with. But if I got starstruck by anybody at this point, it would be a long day. I think once I started working with Sting, like, I see Sting every week. So like that kind of puts it in perspective.
So yeah, I guess that would break the seal and kind of make anything else pretty difficult. Anyway, Tony, it's always a pleasure you're always open, you're always honest, you're always fantastic with us to talk about the future of AEW. 3.5 years in now, and 3 years in now. And
we're 3 years in from the launch. Like I said, I started working on this, I guess, like the concept that became AEW about 4 years ago. And it's crazy because people I really wanted to reach out to at the beginning, CM Punk, Chris Jericho, the Young Bucks were like the first people I really wanted to get a hold of. It took me a while to wrangle CM Punk, but pretty quickly I got Jericho and Matt Jackson to start talking to me, and we were talking a lot, and those guys really helped start it because Matt brought Nick and so many other people, Cody, and then later Kenny, and people that he had the contacts with, and I knew that if I could start a wrestling company, if I had Chris Jericho, CM Punk, and the Young Bucks, we would be able to compete with any wrestling company in the world. And we got Jericho and the Young Bucks and many others launched with a great roster. And then, of course, so many other great stars came, and eventually CM Punk. And he's been awesome for us. And I just mentioned Sting and so many other legends. And then that's opened up the door for more stars coming in. And now, so like I said, just in recent weeks, some of the biggest names in wrestling coming in, established stars with decades of experience like Samoa Joe and Jeff Hardy. And what a fresh coat of paint Jeff Hardy put on. By the way, Matt Hardy in a couple of weeks has gone from being one of the most hated people in pro wrestling to one of the most beloved, and I think it's great. And it's not like I didn't see it coming. It was very apparent. The whole AHFO, like if you look at the timing of when Andrade and Matt Hardy got together, you could probably connect the dots. And then look at when they broke up, and for what the whole idea was. At the time, people really hated Matt, and I knew there's only one guy less sympathetic than Big Money Matt. And and so the whole thing in Private Party and the whole thing. So it all worked out so great. It was a great moment. And Jeff coming in, it's been awesome to have one of the legends of pro wrestling, Jeff Hardy, here every week, but also the fresh coat of paint and the new life and the new lease on life it's given to Matt Hardy, I think is awesome. So having him here, Samoa Joe debuting last night, the crowd went nuts. The crowd also went nuts when he showed up in Ring of Honor, which was a huge moment in the history of Ring of Honor and in the future of Ring of Honor. And I think also Toni Storm coming in did really well for us. It's funny, sometimes people look at the quarter hours, and if you don't have the minute-by-minute data, which like really I don't think is publicly available, people wouldn't know this, but like there was like a commercial, sometimes based on how many commercial breaks, like you'll get, every once in a while you'll get a quarter that has 2 breaks. And that quarter, it's like not fair to judge the quarter unless you've seen the minute by minutes. Toni Storm and the Bunny did great. That was a great break. Yeah, over 1 million people were watching, and in the demo over 500,000. It was great. It was like up there with the big segments on the show. It did really well. And there's a ton of interest in her. The first 2 people to qualify for the Owen were Jamie Hayter and Toni Storm. And we saw them come face to face last night.
Yeah,
there was a lot of buzz on that. And, there was a lot of people pressuring me to make the match in the tournament. And, maybe that was by design. So I like to lean into it. And that's a great potential rivalry. And I think it's also Toni Storm has really come into AEW, not just with a great track record and a lot of fans supporting her, but she said, like, this has brought back her love of wrestling already. Like, the way she reacted when she came through the curtain after the match,
Sure.
I don't know if I've ever seen somebody more relieved to have wrestled a match than Toni Storm after taking the 90 days off. And she came back in great shape. She looks great. She is a great person. I love having her in AEW. And when she squared off with Jamie Hayter face to face, that was a big deal. And so having Toni Storm here, I think, is great. And also, speaking of established stars coming in, Swerve Strickland, and right before that, Keith Lee.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe these guys got fired by any wrestling company in the world. I don't know what the hell you're thinking if you run a wrestling company and you don't have a spot for Swerve Strickland and Keith Lee, but I get that there's only so many positions in a company, but I think any company that has those guys, and, it wasn't like they're unreasonable guys. They're great. I love both guys. And they've been a huge part of what we're doing here now too. And, if you play your cards right on your birthday, you just might see the two of them, Keith Lee and Swerve. I think, there's a lot of exciting things happening in pro wrestling. And like you said, wrestlers go now, free agency worked one way for a long time and worked to our benefit. Now free agency clearly goes both ways, and that's good. And I know that we'll keep being active in the market. I'm still, what the time is right now? It's
1:55.
Okay, so it's about close to 2:00. So I still probably have a couple hours to wait and see, whatever number we did. But like I said, I want it to be really good, but this is a unique week because I know I went into this week not with a book for ratings mindset, and I can't remember the last time I went into it. Now I will say I went into Dynamite with a bit of an art house feel, and Rampage is book for ratings. It's gonna kick ass tomorrow night. I know people want to see Mox versus Yuta. I know people are gonna enjoy Danielson versus Trent, and there's great matches up and down the show. I mentioned Willow versus Red Velvet for the Owen qualifier, and Swerve is going to wrestle one of my, somebody I work with, QT. One of my people I work with, QT, and I think that'll be fun. I understand. Also, Chris Jericho will name a Sports Entertainer of the Week again this week.
I can't wait.
So we'll see what that will be. It's a lot of fun.
So it is Rampage. It is Friday night,
tomorrow night, or it could be tonight if you're watching this. If you didn't get, if people, it could be tonight, depending on when you're watching. It might be tomorrow, but it's Friday night this week.
Yeah, how about we just say Friday night, April 8th. If it's tomorrow night, then it's tomorrow night. If it's tonight, it's tonight. And if it
whatever the Friday you're watching this on, probably, because by next Friday, 90% of the people will have moved on with their lives. So, and then by then they'll be thinking about Hangman versus Cole, but they'll still be thinking, I think, about Moxley versus Yuta too, because it'll be in the back of their mind what a great match they saw last Friday. Yep. And so it's a big week ahead. And this week, this Friday night, 10:00 Eastern, 9:00 Central, we have a great hour of pro wrestling, and it's going to continue next week. And I'll see you in New Orleans for your birthday, which I'm really excited about. I'll get you something nice, and then you showing up on your birthday means a lot. So that's awesome.
Yeah, well, I'm working on it. I got to ask my wife's permission. You know how that goes. But we'll see. And Tony, always great when you show up. Always great when you're here to talk wrestling. We could do this for 3 hours at a time, but today we're going to do it for an hour.
Well, do you want to talk about Major League 2?
All right.
We have really today.
Today is opening day, by the way.
I know, that's why I'm in the mood to talk about, you can tell a lot about the season from the first at bat of the season. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like the Willie Mays Hayes, I guess that's going back to the original Major League, which is obviously the superior film.
Give Rudy a credit for sacrificing his body on that rocket. Guy's got a family to think about.
Got a family to think about, yeah. And so, to be fair, nobody's trying to pretend Major League 2 is the better movie here. We know what the better movie is. It's just that if you're looking for a good time, Major League 2 is a great time. The original Major League is one of the best movies. I mean, it's not a great time. It's the best time. But
I think Major League is the best baseball movie.
I agree.
But I think Major League 2 is not as good of a movie, but if you love Major League, I mean, it's practically a shot-by-shot remake of some parts of it. So, it's still great.
I wanted to, so I loved Little Big League also. I love sports stats. And
Tony,
as a kid,
Little Big League is the most underrated movie in the history of sports. It is. People say Rookie of the Year, get out of here. People say The Sandlot, get out of here. Little Big League is Billy Haywood is incredible.
Yep. He's an early sabermetrics pioneer. Now I actually own True Media here in Boston. The best, the most prominent, and particularly in baseball, the most prominent sports analytics and engineering company in the world. And we work with 22 of the 30 Major League Baseball teams, including the Minnesota Twins, on sabermetrics and analytics. And so it's life's come full circle. So I love Billy Haywood. And to me, he was an inspiration because, Randy Hales said something the other day. You know who Randy Hales is, right?
Right. Yeah.
So he said something the other day that's true. I reached out to him when I was 14 years old. And I'd been doing writing wrestling shows as something I really enjoyed. And I was, when I was like a preteen and through my teens, my two things I really loved were wrestling and trying to write my own wrestling shows is like my hobby when I was in school and often like in class. And if I was in class, I was usually either working on Dynamite or drawing up basketball plays. And I can send you a photo of it, but I loved basketball, and I actually was like coaching basketball at a really like young age because I'm not tall or fast, and I never grew into it or got quick. So I loved those two things, and I was doing those two things pretty much any time I got outside of school. But I sent Randy Hales shows I was working on when I was younger, and I started doing Dynamite when I was 12 years old. And like Billy Haywood is like a kid, but he knew, I'm not saying I knew what I was doing then at all, but working hard on it, the 10,000 hours thing, maybe I don't think it's exactly 10,000 hours is a magic number, but the idea of doing something enough that it becomes second nature to you to work on it. And then doing those things for years outside of pro wrestling, I learned a lot, but I think I've learned 100 times more in 131 episodes of Dynamite, and I think 35 episodes of Rampage, a dozen pay-per-views. Like I said, I feel like gotten pretty grizzled since this thing started. And Billy Haywood, to me, I still go back. I still keep that mindset that I had then, that like young, trying to learn, but also like don't let anybody tell you that they know better than you. And really, I think that served me well in this business because we took a major turn upwards in terms of ratings and box office when I said, you know what, I actually do know what I'm doing, and I'm going to just trust my instincts and not trust my instincts. Because like, imagine if Billy Haywood had just sat back and let Mac coach the team.
Right. Yeah.
Mac's
a good pitching coach. He's a fine pitching coach, but he wasn't ready either.
Mac's great. You want Mac on the team, but like when Mac was like, it might not have, without Billy's perspective, what would have happened to the Twins? And I would love for there to be a sequel. I would love to know what happened with the Twins. Billy Haywood's still a reasonably young guy. Like in the modern baseball.
What is he now? He's 40, maybe?
Yeah, he's probably about 40.
Tony, the horse's name is Friday. Just pointing that out. You keep answering these questions and leading to this is one more little question. Who were you booking when you were 12 years old?
Different stuff. So one of my favorite programs was I did kind of a Mr. Wrestling 2 Magnum TA type story. It's kind of the opposite of a Bruno Larry. Bruno Larry is where the protege really gets jealous of his mentor. And you see that time to time, and it's one of the great stories. But I also really love Mr. Wrestling 2 Magnum TA, where the mentor gets really jealous of the stud he's really coaching up, that this guy's becoming almost as big a star or bigger star than he is. And so I had that going with Bret Hart and Chris Jericho in the 90s before Chris Jericho had turned heel, and I didn't really know he even had that. Chris, I was seeing him as a baby face, and Bret Hart was like his mentor coach. And then Bret Hart started to get really jealous of this guy he was coaching. And then that was like around the time Bret Hart turned heel in real life in 97. And I was using Bret Hart as a heel around that time against Chris Jericho. That was really fun. I had a lot of Jerry Lawler. Every company I had, the show was always Dynamite. The company could change. I would start in, new tournaments, new champions every few years, start something new night of the week, new network. But the show was always Dynamite until 2011. I kept Dynamite, but I had signed so many wrestlers in my own brain that I had to do a second show, which became Rampage.
That's incredible.
Well, it was cool that I got the name through. This is a true story. There were like 50 names that TNT did insane market testing. They probably literally dozens of different names that they had fan reaction to. And Dynamite, I've been doing all these years. The fans have no idea about that. They don't know that's the one I want them to pick. Good. That was their pick out of dozens of names. That was the name that tested the best. And I couldn't believe it. It made me so happy because it wasn't like I, shoehorned the name in there on anyone. It was like the name fans really liked. So it was awesome. And the network actually had brought up Revolution as a name. And I said at the time, I think Revolution's a great pay-per-view to the great folks at TNT and TBS. I felt like Revolution's a big event we can build up, and it has become a huge event in the company, one of our greatest nights in wrestling. But I felt like Dynamite was the weekly show, maybe because I was biased from all the years, but the fans agreed too.
Oh, it's been awesome. It has been awesome. I'm gonna stop it now because my producer is about to cut me.
Well, they can't cut you. You're contagious. They can't come to you.
That's true. That's very true. Plus, he's in New York and I'm in New Jersey. So anyway, Tony Khan, president of AEW, just on a roll right now, like they always are. Can't wait to see what is happening next. Rampage.
Can we do one thing?
Yes, please.
Can we talk about that run around Sue montage in Little Big League?
It's outside of maybe the League of Their Own montage. It's the best montage in sports.
Yep. It's the best song montage combo of all time. Like all the stuff they pull and all the Bowers pumping the glove.
Right. And the single, when they take just extended, like they take multiple players hitting the ball and into one swing. That's beautiful. And them dancing in the dugout.
Yeah.
I love everything about it. And tell me you don't get chills when he is just beaten down by the world. He's tired and he shows up in New York and he goes and plays that parking lot baseball game with those other kids.
Yeah.
And he's just sitting back like this when they're arguing. It's just incredible.
It's like a sobering moment in that movie that like it is a kids movie, but it's a kids movie for adults and it still holds up as a great movie. Little Big League, when he has to cut Jerry.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It's not easy to cut. And he's like, it's not easy to cut your hero and your friend. And, I'll inevitably be in that position and have already been in it a little bit, but I've yet to cut a hero, but I've had to cut friends and it's not easy. And it's like, little Billy Haywood did it and it's no joke. And, but when I was a kid, I was like, man, that must've sucked for him. And, but it really sucked for Jerry. But luckily, Jerry came back in coaching, so the Little Big League did have a happy ending there.
Yeah, it ended happy. You know what my very, very favorite scene in the whole movie is when, and I'm sure you might even have something in wrestling that relates to this, but they're in the hotel room and they're dropping the water balloons.
Yeah.
And the Mac and the GM, Arthur, open the door, and the guys turn around and he's like, oh, I was just watching.
Yeah. I love good, we know there's that's like a relatively mean prank as guys are going out to be dropping water balloons and ruining their nights, but there's some good ribs and pranks in pro wrestling. But that was Billy Haywood. Bowers, the art of the water balloon throw, I think he mastered it. And I think Billy and Bowers really had a youthful energy they brought to the clubhouse that helped keep the team loose.
Well, if you think about it, like Bowers is a wrestling character, Blackout Gatling is a wrestling character. It's just, there's
Blackout Gatling might have been a wrestler for all we know.
He might have been. I don't know.
He looks like a wrestler.
I think he was an actual pitcher in baseball.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like, how in Major League, Clu Haywood was actually the 1982 American League Cy Young winner.
Yeah.
I think that guy, Blackout Gatling's a pitcher too. I don't know who he is. I can't remember who he is.
The dude who's like Tom Berenger's assistant coach in Major League 2, like when it was Jake, Jake has like when Lou goes to the hospital, Jake steps up. He's got that assistant guy who doesn't really talk much.
Yeah.
He like laughs. Him and Jake turn to each other and laugh when Lou's like, got me a transistor radio. They say baseball's bad for my health. And they like look at each other and pop. That guy, that might be his only line. That guy played baseball. I was like, who the hell is this guy? And he's like a baseball player. So there's a bunch of baseball players throughout Major League and Major League 2 kind of scattered into these roles. But really, I think one of the things that made the movies great is Charlie Sheen was a really good thrower of the baseball. He's a good pitcher.
Yeah.
You know, he's not a major league pitcher probably, but he looks good enough that it passed on film, and Rick Vaughn looked like a real player.
And that's what hurt Bull Durham, because Tim Robbins couldn't throw worth a damn.
Yeah.
Now, Bull Durham's a great movie, but Tim Robbins couldn't throw.
I couldn't get into the Kurt Warner movie because like Kurt Warner's got one of the greatest throwing motions I've ever seen. And like, as soon as I saw the guy throwing the ball in the trailer, I know Mike Martz a bit, and I really like Mike Martz. And I have so much respect for Kurt Warner and Dick Vermeil and all those guys. And Kurt Warner's release is like the greatest release.
Yeah.
It's like the textbook one. So like to see that release the guy had, I could not do it. And then like the NFL's like, I'm part of the NFL. The NFL is part of the movie. And I was like, I would have liked if we got a guy with a better release. I'll be honest.
All right. One day, just come on and we'll just talk movies for an hour.
Yeah, that'd be great. I don't know if your numbers are going to be as good on that one as me talking about,
That's true. That's
all
true.
This stuff.
All right. Tony Khan, always a pleasure. Hopefully we'll see you very soon. Maybe next week, maybe when you come to Long Island in May. But congratulations on all your success and on AEW's tremendous success as well.
I'll see you next week for your birthday. Thanks for hanging out, man. And I hope you feel better.
All right. That is Tony Khan, and this has been Rasslin.